Both of these are great phones in their own right. I've used both phones individually for over a month at a time, and today I'm going to go through 10 reasons why the Pixel 4a is better than the OnePlus Nord. I'm Gary, this is FoxTech, and I think it's time for a head-to-head, the budget battle. If you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed yet, smash that button and enjoy the video. Let's start with what you see first, the design. The Pixel 4a is clearly smaller than the OnePlus Nord, with a screen of 5.8 inches compared to the 6.4 inches of the Nord. I really like the smaller size, to be honest. When I was using the Nord, it didn't stand out to me how big and heavy it is, but at 184 grams compared to the 148 grams of the 4a, there's a big difference. I prefer the smaller form factor and the lightweight feel in the hand of the 4a compared to the Nord. It's much more manageable, which means there's less finger gymnastics to use it day to day. The single hole punch camera on the front of the 4a is clearly better to look at than the pill-shaped hole punch on the Nord. Yes, the Nord has a standard wide and an ultra wide on the front, so there's an extra camera there, but I barely take any selfies at all, so I much prefer the smaller single hole punch in the corner rather than having a massive hole in the top left of my display. Something that surprised me about the Pixel 4a is how clicky and tactile the buttons are. Honestly, they're some of the clickiest buttons I've seen on a smartphone. They're so satisfying to use. I didn't initially think that the Nord had bad buttons or anything like that, but once I used the 4a and then went back to the Nord's buttons feel so bad in comparison. It's something which adds to a premium feel when using the phone day to day. That premium feel continues in the 4a when it comes to the vibration motor. The vibration motor, or the haptic feedback, in the 4a is quite impressive. Again, it's a thing that's hard to realise when using the Nord on its own, but when comparing them side by side, it's obvious to me that the 4a is way ahead in terms of haptic feedback. Let's be honest, it's not going to be as good as the iPhone's vibration motor, but no Android phone really is. I used to always turn off the vibration feedback on phones because it felt like a cheap buzz feel, but the 4a is quite a solid shake, and I like it, so I've continued using it. Pixels, they're known for their quick software updates. They've always been the first to get Android updates, and there's no change with the 4a. I remember after a couple of days using the 4a, I had Android 11 update, which was a pretty nice surprise. But I guess that's the major benefit of owning a Pixel device, bringing the fastest updates you can get on an Android phone. OnePlus have improved the speed at which they bring out major Android updates, but Google make Android, and so they're always going to be able to bring updates faster to their phones. The 4a comes with 3 years of software updates, whereas the Nord only comes with 2 years. For me, as someone who updates and changes their phone more regularly than most, 2 or 3 years doesn't really make a huge difference for my usage. But for the majority of smartphone users who own phones for over 2 years, the Pixel is the way to go in terms of software support long term. When it comes to the software itself and the differences, a lot of the time it comes down to personal preference. I've always liked stock Android, and although many now say that Pixels aren't stock, I prefer the Pixel style of Android compared to Oxygen OS that's on OnePlus devices. Oxygen OS does have some nice customizations, but I like how things like Now Playing work on Pixel phones, telling you what music is playing in the background, even without an internet connection. Also, there's an always on display already on the 4a, which is really useful. Yes, it's coming to the Nord with Oxygen OS 11, but I feel like Oxygen OS 11 is following in the footsteps of Samsung One UI, which personally I'm not a massive fan of. So the Pixel software for me is the winner in this one. When it comes to cameras, the Pixel is known for flexing when it comes to still photos and Google's impressive image processing. The Nord and the 4a take a very different approach when it comes to the cameras. The Nord throws everything at you, half of which is useless and you won't need. Yeah, I'm talking about the pointless 2 megapixel macro sensor and the 5 megapixel depth sensor, whereas the Pixel just gives you the bare minimum 1 camera on the front and 1 on the back. I like the minimalistic approach that Google have gone with here for the price. For photos, Pixel is ahead in terms of quality of the output from the main sensor, thanks to their incredible computational photography algorithms. The dynamic range is better, and the colours are more realistic when compared to the oversaturated nature of the Nord. Yes, the Nord has an ultra-wide lens on the front and the rear, so this is an extra field of view and more flexibility on that front. But if you just have to point and shoot, it's Pixel all day long. Night sight blows nightscape out of the water, no real comparison here. There's only one winner. But when it comes to video, this is where the Nord actually takes it ahead of the Pixel 4a. The rear fingerprint scanner on the 4a is more reliable, faster, and more responsive than the in-display fingerprint scanner on the Nord. I've always found the in-display fingerprint scanners to be really good actually, especially on OnePlus phones, really fast and really reliable. But the placement on the back is so useful for when you take it out of your pocket, and it just works great. There's no complaints. The 4a comes with stereo speakers, but the Nord only comes with a mono bottom firing speaker, so it's an easy win for the Pixel 4a in terms of speaker quality. The speaker on the Nord is pretty easy to block, but the 4a does a good job, to be honest, especially for the small size. I made a video recently about how we're kind of forced to use cases on our smartphones because of the fragile, expensive materials that they're made of, and what do? We smack a plastic case on the back and call it a day. Go check that video out if you haven't already. When it comes to the Nord, that same principle applies. Glass on the back, massive camera bump, massive 6.4 inch display, and it's really hard to use in one hand, so I had to use a case on the back. With the Pixel 4a though, I went caseless. With the plastic unibody design and the small camera bump, it meant it was easy to use without a case and not worry. Although it did show some wear over time at the corners on the back, and it's something to be aware of. We have a headphone jack, yes! In 2020, we still have a headphone jack on the Pixel 4a, but to be honest, I totally forgot it was there. And I haven't even used it once because I use Bluetooth headphones now, but it's still nice to have, and for some people, it may be the sole reason why they choose the Pixel 4a over the OnePlus Nord. Funnily enough though, the Pixel 5 doesn't have one. From my side, they're the reasons as to why I prefer the Pixel 4a over the OnePlus Nord. There's going to be a second video coming to show the flip side of that, so why I prefer the Nord over the Pixel 4a. So make sure you're sub to the channel to not miss out on that one. Then you'll have all the info you need and you can make an informed decision on what's best for you. And I'll be sharing what I prefer overall and why in that video. Thanks for watching. This was FoxTech, and I'll catch you in the next one.